You know what's tricky? Figuring out how much of yourself to bring to work. Like, how real do you get with your colleagues? And when do you share what you're going through? Or how do you stay professional while still being human? By the way, I'm Denise, and this is Faith Mom, where we talk about real faith for real life. Now, if you've ever wondered how to be authentic at work without oversharing, how to build genuine connections with colleagues while keeping healthy boundaries, and when it's wise to be vulnerable, I'm going to share what I've learned through some really hard experiences and how faith has guided me in navigating these tricky waters. So today, I want to talk about something I think a lot of us struggle with: sharing our struggles and our strength at work. Because here's the thing, we spend so much of our lives at work with those people, and yet there's this invisible line we're supposed to walk. Too closed off, and you seem cold or unapproachable. Too open, and suddenly you're unprofessional, or you've given people information they might use against you. So, how do you navigate this? How do you show up as your authentic self without making yourself vulnerable to people who haven't earned that trust? Now, let me start by saying this. I've learned to be very careful about who I share my personal stories with at work. And I don't say that so to sound guarded or cynical. I say it because I've learned through experience that not everyone deserves access to your story. If I don't have a strong bond with someone, if they've treated me unprofessionally in the past, if there's just something in my gut telling me to keep my distance, I keep things surface level, polite, friendly, but not personal. And that's okay. That's not being fake. That's being wise. But with colleagues I trust, the ones who've shown themselves to be kind, who treat me with respect, who I've built a genuine connection with, I'm more open. Not fully disclosing everything because I still want to keep things professional, but open in a way that's harmonious and friendly. Not friends, exactly, but friendly. Friends and friendly is kind of different. Friendship and friendly is really completely different. There's a big difference. Now, let me give you an example from my own life that really tested this balance. A while back, my husband was hospitalized after he got hit by a car while crossing the street. It was terrifying. One of those moments where your whole world just stops and all you can think is he going to be okay? Obviously, I had to be absent from work. And when I came back, I had to share something about what happened. You can't just disappear and then show up like nothing happened. But here's what I did. I shared it with someone I already trusted. Someone who was older than me, someone who had more life experience, someone who I knew would understand. And you know what she did? She shared her own experience when her husband had undergone physiotherapy after an accident. That moment of connection, of her saying, "I've been there too," it meant everything. It made me feel less alone. But that's about as far as it went. I didn't disclose the profound things. I didn't get into how scared I was, how I felt when I got that phone call, how I was wrestling with God about why this happened. Those things were too deep, too personal for the workplace, even with someone I trusted. And that felt right. That felt like the right balance. Here's another example. Now, when my child was sick, I mean really sick, the kind of sick where you're up all night worried, I had to share that with my colleagues too because, again, I needed to be present at home. Now, here's the interesting part. Most of my colleagues don't have children. They probably don't have that deep understanding of what it feels like when your child is suffering and you do anything to take their pain away. They don't know what it's like to feel torn between work responsibilities and that primal need to be with your baby or your child. But here's what they do understand. We work in an early learning development school where educators, we deal with children every single day. So even though they're not parents, they understand care. They understand the importance of a trusted adult being present when a child is going through a tough period in life. So when I shared that my child was sick and I needed to be home, they got it. Not from a parent's perspective, but from an educator's perspective. And that was enough. That was the connection point or the connection point. I didn't have to explain the depth of a mother's love or, justifying why I needed to be there. They understood within the context of our shared work, caring for children. And that taught me something important. You don't have to fully explain yourself to everyone. You just need to find the common ground, the shared understanding, and connect there. So, how do you know when to share and when to keep things private? How do you find that balance? Now, first, I think you have to pay attention to the relationship. Have they earned your trust? Have they shown themselves to be safe? Do they treat you with respect and professionalism? If the answer is no, keep your boundaries firm. You don't owe everyone your story. But if the answer is yes, if there's mutual respect and genuine care, then it's okay to share within reason. Share enough to build connection, enough to be human, but not so much that you're laying your whole heart bare in an environment that isn't designed to hold it. Now, second, ask yourself, why am I sharing this? Am I sharing because I need connection and support? Or am I oversharing because I'm anxious or seeking validation? There's a difference here. One is healthy vulnerability, and the other is using your colleagues as therapists, and that's not fair to them or to you. When I shared about my husband's accident, I was sharing because I needed people to understand why I was absent and distracted. When I shared about my child being sick, it was the same context for why I needed to step away. I wasn't dumping my, emotional load on them. I was giving them information they needed while also being honest about what I was going through. That's the sweet spot. Honest without being heavy. Now, third, remember that you can be authentic without being an open book. Authenticity doesn't mean sharing everything. It means being genuine in what you do share. It means not pretending everything is perfect when it isn't, but also not feeling obligated to explain every detail of your struggle. You can say, I'm going through a tough time right now, without explaining what that tough time is. You can say, I need some grace today without justifying why. You can be real without being raw. And here's where faith comes in for me. I pray about these situations. I pray for wisdom about who to trust, what to share, how much to reveal, because Proverbs tells us the prudent keep their knowledge to themselves, but a fool's heart blurts out folly. That doesn't mean we're supposed to be closed off. It means we're supposed to be wise. God has given us discernment for a reason. That gut feeling that tells you this person is safe or this person is not, that's not just intuition. That's the Holy Spirit guiding you. Listen to it. I've also learned that maintaining professionalism doesn't mean being cold or distant. You can be warm, kind, caring, and still have boundaries. You can ask people how they're doing and genuinely care about the answer. You can celebrate their wins and emphasize with their struggles or empathize with their struggles. And you can be a good colleague and a good person without making everyone your best friend. In fact, I think that's healthier because the workplace is not designed to be your primary community. Your colleagues are not meant to be your therapists or your accountability partners or your closest confidants or your best friends. That's what church community is for, what close friends are for, what family is for. Work is work. And while we should absolutely bring our humanity to work, we don't have to bring all of ourselves. Now, let's talk about the flip side of this, sharing your strengths. This is something I think women especially struggle with. We're taught not to brag, not to be, too much, not to draw attention to ourselves. So we downplay our accomplishments, minimize our contributions, deflect compliments. But here's what I've learned. Sharing your strengths is not the same as bragging. Acknowledging what you're good at is not arrogance, it's honesty. If you did something well, say it. If you have a skill that could help the team, offer it. If you accomplish something significant, own it. You don't have to be loud about it. You don't have to make it all about you. But you also don't have to shrink yourself to make other people comfortable. Now, I work in early childhood education, and I'm good at what I do. I understand child development. I know how to create environments where children feel safe and seen. I know how to connect with parents and help them navigate the challenges of raising little ones. And I can say that without feeling guilty because it's true. And owning that truth doesn't take anything away from my colleagues. It actually strengthens our team because everyone knows what everyone brings to the table. Now, when you're clear about your strengths, people know when to come to you for help. When you're honest about what you're good at, you create opportunities to serve. When you own your gifts, you give God glory because those gifts came from Him anyway. Now, here's the thing. False humility doesn't honor God. Hiding your light under a bushel because you're afraid of being too much doesn't serve anyone. God gave you those strengths for a reason. Use them, share them, let them shine. And this is important, share them with the same wisdom you use when sharing your struggles. Read the room, know your audience. Timing actually really matters. It really matters. Now, if your colleague is going through a hard time, that's probably not the moment to talk about your recent promotion. If your team just got difficult feedback, that's not the time to brag about your individual success. Wisdom knows when to speak and when to be quiet. And just like with sharing struggles, sharing strengths should come from a place of wanting to contribute, not from a place of needing validation. If you're constantly talking about how great you are because, you need people to affirm you, that's insecurity talking. But if you're clear about your strengths because you want to serve your team well and help everyone succeed, that's confidence and that's healthy. So how do you find the balance between being authentic and being professional? Between being vulnerable and being wise? Between sharing your struggles and sharing your strengths? I think it comes down to this. Be intentional. Be prayerful. Be discerning. Not everyone needs to know everything, but some people, the safe ones, the trustworthy ones, the ones who've earned it, they can know more, and that's okay. You can be warm and kind and caring without being everyone's best friend. You can be authentic without oversharing. You can acknowledge your strengths without being arrogant. You can admit your struggles without making yourself vulnerable to people who haven't proven themselves safe. And through it all, you can trust that God is guiding you. He'll show you who to trust. He'll give you the words to say or the wisdom to stay quiet. He'll help you navigate these relationships with grace and wisdom and discernment. Because here's what I've learned. The goal isn't to have everyone at work know everything about you. The goal is to show up as a whole person, someone with struggles and strengths, someone who's human and professional, someone who's authentic within healthy boundaries. And when you get that balance right, work becomes a place where you can thrive, not just survive, where you can build genuine connections without losing yourself, where you can be you, the best version of you, in a way that honors God, serves your team, and protects your heart. So, if you're trying to figure out how much to share at work, start here. Pray for wisdom. Pay attention to who's proven themselves trustworthy. Share enough to build connection, not so much that you're exhausted or you're exposed. Own your strengths without apology and trust that God will guide you in every conversation, every decision, every relationship. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to be wise, to be authentic, and to trust that God's got you, even at work. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If this resonated with you, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section, how do you navigate sharing at work? What's been your experience with finding that balance? I'd love to hear your story. Until next time, remember, you are loved, you are valued, and you don't have to be an open book to be an authentic person. Talk to you soon. Ciao for now.